Restream is good to go. There we are. Good evening, social media.
Hi, social media. Very exciting to talk to Ly Hayslip tonight. How wonderful. Seeing Ed Pender. Haven't seen Ed in a long while. Henry Shepke. Good to see you, Henry.
Henry too young to be veteran.
Yeah, he is. He's a student. He's a high school student.
Oh,
Good to
good.
see Rich Kessinger and Chuck Toysh, who made this connection and made this whole thing possible. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our VBC Scuttlebutt. I'm Todd DiPastino, the director of the Veterans Breakfast Club, and we get together every Monday night to have these conversations with veterans and others. And we call it the Scuttlebutt because that is a Navy term about talking around the water cooler, I guess you would say. I see Barb Smith. Good to see you, Barb. Jim Janicki, Clive. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. So it's wonderful. Thank you all for joining us tonight for this really special conversation. I don't think I've ever been as starstruck as I am tonight because we have Ly Hayslip with us. And she is somebody that I've admired from afar for about 35 years. I've been really in awe of her life and her story since then. Her memoir of the Vietnam War, her first one, came out when I just started teaching courses on the history of Vietnam and history of the Vietnam War. I was stunned when I read her book. It was the first time that I ever read an account of the Vietnamese side of the war, and I've tracked her life and career ever since. If you don't know Ly Hayslip, let me tell you a little bit about her remarkable life and work. Ly is a renowned author and humanitarian whose life story is an example, I think, not only of what human beings can survive, but what they can accomplish if they have determination in their minds and they have love in their hearts. And I think that comes through very powerfully in everything Ly has written and done. Ly was born in a village near Da Nang during the First Indochina War when France was fighting Ho Chi Minh's Viet Minh forces. She was about 12 years old when Americans arrived for the first time on helicopters in her village. The war had been passed on to the United States. And she grew up very quickly, far more quickly than a child really should grow up, and faced unimaginable hardships that she writes about with great candor and detail in her memoir. She was just a girl, and she had to navigate the confusing loyalties and lines of conflict in her small little village, between American forces and the Northern Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army and the South Vietnamese Army, of course. She did work for the Viet Cong. She did some support. I think worked as a courier and did some other things for the Viet Cong. She was captured by ARVN, the South Vietnamese Army, held as prisoner, tortured several times, released, and then the Viet Cong treated her with great suspicion as if she were a traitor to the Viet Cong cause. So she had to flee, and she fled first to Da Nang and then to Saigon, started working with Americans there, ended up marrying an American, Ed Monroe, and coming with him and her children, two children at the time, to San Diego, California in 1970. So the war is still going on, and here's Ly, who had served in the Viet Cong as a child, now suddenly in California, and she's encountering a whole new world and a whole new set of challenges and hardships. She's living in poverty. She's facing enormous discrimination. Of course, the war is still going on, and she survives and somehow thrives. And then a decade or more, she decides for some reason that she wants to write her story, which is outlandish. It's an outlandish idea for Ly at the time, still a young woman whose first language is Vietnamese. She has a third grade education, and no publisher was publishing anything from the Vietnamese side of the Vietnam War. And here she is with this remarkably candid story. I think it took a lot of work, but she got her book published, and it is a beautiful classic of the Vietnam War. It's called When Heaven and Earth Changed Places, and it was published in 1989. It was just a couple years after that that I ran across the book and started assigning it to my classes, and it became a favorite of my students and a favorite of readers around the world. It's been, how many language lately has this book been translated into? Do you know?
It's about 20.
20 languages around the world. She wrote a sequel, Child of War, Woman of Peace, which detail more her life here in the United States since she came, and then her work in helping the United States and Vietnam kind of bridge the divide of war over the past several decades. She's founded two very influential organizations, the East Meets West Foundation. And I know a lot of Pittsburghers were very much involved in some of the work of that foundation, and the Global Village Foundation. She promotes peace and helps impoverished communities, especially in Asia and in Vietnam. And last but not least, her book was made into a major motion picture directed by Oliver Stone called Heaven and Earth, starring Tommy Lee Jones. I'll be interested to hear what Lay Lee thinks of that movie. So what I thought we would do is, now that you have a bit of a background on who Ly Hayslip is to have you, Lay Lee, just let's you and I get into conversation about your life so that people could learn a little bit more about what your life was like and what your story is. And we will invite people if they would like to, raise questions, make comments. And then I think we'll try and have an open kind of Q&A for the past half hour, starting at about 8 o'clock here Eastern. So Lay Lee, thank you so much for joining our program. We're honored and privileged that you're able to join us. And I was wondering if you want to let people know, after you say hi to everybody, that what it was like to grow up it would have been the 1950s in a small village west of Da Nang.
Right. Yes. Yes. Well, hello, everyone. You already introduced me so well. Everybody know about me now. So what should I have to say?
Nothing left to say. Well, one of the beautiful things about When Heaven and Earth Change Places, and by the way, this is how literature is structured. When a book opens with something beautiful, bad stuff's going to happen. When a book opens with horrible things, good stuff happens. The book, there's some bad stuff that certainly happens, but it's a kind of idyllic, in some ways, childhood in this village in Vietnam. Do you remember your young childhood as being rather positive and nice?
Yes. I was born in late 1949 and early 50, between Lunar New Year and the Western New Year's. And so I can say I born 1949, or I can say I born in 1950. So I have total it's 4 birthday. So and so one of the birthday that I celebrate every year, but otherwise I have 4 birthdays. And so from 1950 to 1955, the first 5 years of my life, my childhood seeing Frenchmen, tall, ugly, smell, mean, black, white, tall, short, fat, skinny. I mean, all of those. They not look anything like Vietnamese. And they're with the Vietnamese who fight with them, for them. And so we call them a different name because, my family with the Viet Minh, and all my family with the trying to, get out the French. And so at the first 5 years, my life is horrible. I see terrible things happen in the village. A woman being raped, and, talking about tortures, and talking about people taken to torture camp, and all kind of horrible thing. But that is the war. And so when in 1955, when I was 5 years old, the war ended with the French. And so from 1955 to 1960, throughout the first 5 years is the best time of my life. I can able to go to schools. I had 2 water buffalo at my pet. I had duck, chicken, pig, cow, dog, cat. I mean, just children live in a village. You live with it live with you. And so we have, like a family, everything. We had coconut tree for summer day. We had a betel nut for our parrot, tobacco for our father. Every night run, get him a can of beer from a little small shop. Beautiful rice paddy that we work 7 days a week. A beautiful warm sunshine on top of our back, and a beautiful green rice and cold water on our foot, right? It's a beautiful village. We had fish, scrap, snakes, all kind of things from the pond. And that is how we survive. Well, everything we plant, we harvest. Everything we throw down, it grow. We talk to it. We live with ghosts. We talk to our ancestors, and we communicate with them every day before the sunset. And I mean, our life is just very simple. We never lock our door. Everything that because the daytime it was too hot to work in the paddy, so we working inside the house. But as soon as like 3 o'clock, from 3 to say midnight, we will be outdoor and we work outside. So in those 5 years of my life, I consider it's a very beautiful. I mean, I wish my grandchildren have that kind of life because it's fun. It's poor. We don't have a lot of good food, but we have everything we needed. We never go hungry. We have more than we need for our food. But then 1960, things start to change. The rumor is in the new war gonna come. Everything is secretly talking. Everything is a plan for the war. I mean, we just finished war against the French. Who is gonna come to our country again? And then little by little, the Americans come in. We thought as the French came in back. They look alike, they big, they handsome, they're tall, they're ugly, they're skinny, whatever. Same kind of friends that we see. And so now our family is turned upside down because my father's side total 17 members. My my oldest brother and 2 brother-in-law, and all the cousin and nephew of my parents all went to North in 1954 when the war ended with the French. And so on my mother's side, everybody went to South Vietnamese army. And so our family caught in between. But we don't see the problem. We never did discuss about politics. We don't know what to say about it. We just only know that we cannot do like everything at curfew before the sunset. We cannot go out until after sunrise. And my teacher and people in our village start to get killed, murdered. Everything is secrets, but it's dangerous secrets. My sister, yeah.
Lee, may I interrupt you and ask you, do you remember when you first saw an American?
Oh, yes. I think that is somewhere in 1963, 62 or 63. Just a helicopters.
A helicopter.
A helicopter, and in my village, it's a sand. It's like a sand dune. But then a big rock swap for the rice paddy. And so the helicopter is land right there at the sand where we're working in a paddy, but the helicopter land right there. And one man, just like about your age, or even a little younger, and he looked just like you, with a yellow skirt on and very clean looking uniform. And he just stepped out and stand and on that thing, and he lay his back against the helicopter, and he surveyed, binocular, survey all around, and that thing keep going. And to us, as a children, I was like about 10, 12 years old. And I thought that, oh, heaven sent something is so beautiful to us, right? It just like a plane down and just took off. And to us, we talk about it. It's just like UFO landing here in San Diego, okay? Or you can call it just ET call home, that sort of thing, right? And so here we have back and forth talking about it for weeks, and then they come back again, and then they come back again, and it gets more and more. But our parents know what's going on. We don't. We just children. And so that is when more and more Americans came to our village daily with the South Vietnamese military.
With the South Vietnamese military. And I know we've had a few comments here in the chat, and I just want to say you grew up in the village of Ly.
The Ly, yeah, that was an old name when I was growing up. Which is right outside of Marble Mountain, outside of Da Nang.
Right outside of Marble Mountain, Da Nang. So very near Da Nang is where, and of course, Da Nang is a very different place now than it was then.
Yes.
I mean, it was a dusty little village or dusty town when you were growing up, but now it's a very big, prosperous, bright city. What, how did was your village divided in its loyalties, or was it really a Viet Cong village?
Really Viet Cong village.
Viet
Because
Cong village.
almost every family, it had children went to North. Remember, we just supposed to go there for 2 years, just so that they can study the Vietnamese, read and write Vietnamese, because, before that, we read and write like Chinese, right? And so when the end the war with the French, everybody like to go to Hanoi and study and read and write in 2 years, then I come back. So that's why everybody volunteer to go. But
I'm sorry, Ly, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to let people know that you're referring to the Geneva Accords, which were signed in July 1954, which ended the First Indochina War, the war between Ho Chi Minh's Viet Minh and the French. And it created this temporary set regroupment zones, one in the north, one in the south, at the 17th parallel. And the idea is that the two sides, Ho Chi Minh's forces and then the South, what we would later call the ARVN forces in the South, it would be a temporary separation, and they would be reunited with elections that were due in 1956. So those are the 2 years I think that you're referring to. So people from your village would go to Hanoi, they would get an education, and then they would come back for the reunification elections in 1956. And of course, that never happened.
That's right. That's right. See, that is a sad thing because, and not only it never happened of that, but the people in the north never can come back. Right. And it not only cannot come back, but no communication, no relationship between the parents, the family. Just like I says, my two sisters, Sister Hai and Sister Ba, both of their husbands went to north. And as a young girl, they just got married and their husband left. I mean, now as a mother and grandmother, you look back and you see how much the Vietnamese woman struggles.
Yes.
Just that alone. It's not talking about the war, not talking about the torture, the rape, and all those things. And, you're talking about my life is hard. No, I went through nothing compared into what like my mother or my three sisters went through the two wars.
You were a young girl, 12 years old, maybe 13 years old, when you started working for the Viet Cong?
Yeah, I have well, just like I said, my family is revolutionary family.
Yeah.
And so first our family worked for the French. I mean, worked for the Viet Minh and fought against the French. And then in 1960, my brother and sister left to North or to Saigon, and I'm the only one at home as the youngest of 6 children. So you have to take side. You cannot just, if you don't want to take side, then move out the village. So my family is no other choice but fight with the liberation. And we don't call them communists. We don't call them the North. We just call them a liberation troop, right? And so every night we call them uncle because we know everybody in the village. Everybody is our uncles, our brothers, our cousin, our nephew. I mean, everybody know everybody. And so when they ask us to go out for digging the bunker or trenches or lay the booby trap or whatever, we did it for them at night. But as soon as the sunrise, the South Vietnamese come to the village. They ask us to kill the chicken or duck and cook for them and do the laundry and shine the boots and clean the gun, whatever. We have to do for them the same. But then as soon as the sun set, they went back to the base. The Viet Cong come in, we cook for them, we go to meeting with them, we work with them. So we live and work on both governments in the same time. And none one like each other. Nobody trust anybody. And so that is where my family come in between of those two governments.
And tell me about being arrested or captured by Arvin and taken away. How old were you then?
I was 13.
13 years old.
Yeah, we don't have childhood. Here, the children talking about baseball, football,
Yeah.
talking about piano lesson, talking about, dancing and all those stuff. We talking about the torture camp. We talking about what the parent or the brother and sister went through in the torture camp with the friends. And so my time growing up, it's just like, yeah, you live in the kind of society that all you know. And so when I was 12, we already, just like I said, you cook for the South Vietnamese, and then you cook for the Viet Cong, and you obey on both sides. But my heart or my family duty is always live with the North. We cook and we sing and dance for the South Vietnamese, but we don't trust them. We don't, because we don't know them. They came from city. They look down on us. We poor, we uneducated, we farmer. And so they look down on us. It's just like nothing. And some is kind and some is very good to us, but the most of it aren't. And if they are suspect that we with the Viet Cong, they will take us to torture camp and accuse us right at the spot. And so at 11, 12 years old girl like myself, we already know what side we plan to be or we have to protect and have to be with. And so at nighttime, we're working for the Viet Cong outside. But just like I said, the next morning, the South Vietnamese come up and they caught me being outside. That is when they took me into the torture camp. And what are you doing outside at 13 years old? 13 years old over here is very naive and very innocent. 13 years old for us, we already, been to many torture camps. If we have father or brother in torture camp, we will be there and see them. And so we know that when they capture us, to take us to the camp, we know that they go into torture camp. And so the South Vietnamese, the best thing that they want information. Who do you know at the Viet Cong? When would you, connected with them? Did you see them come to your house or your village? What if they live on the ground? We live above ground and they're under the bunker. But we don't tell them that. We don't tell them, what we know. Our parents already trained us. You cannot tell anything. Everything your own way. Answer it, I don't know. I'm too young with it too. But we know because we serve food for them under the bunker. They die, we bury them. They wounded. We have to save them because they are people. They are villager, our brother, our sister, our cousin. And so we take care of them. And so when you take me to torture camp with it, I'm very lucky. I'm only 14 or 13, but the torture you in different way than if I were a woman or a man. But that is way of life in war.
We have a wonderful question, and thank you, Kim, for asking it. And I'm just noticing, you're tearing up, and it's striking to me, Ly, how this is so many years ago, but when you talk about it, you still all the memories come back, and I just don't know how you do it. And I thank you for going through this painful process of sharing the story. Kim asks, can you tell us what your job was when you supported the liberation forces? Were you ever a soldier under arms? Did you ever use a weapon? I know that you write about that. What did you do for the Viet Cong?
Yeah, we never have any weapon. We don't have anything except give out information. Just for example, I have a water buffalo. And so when the South Vietnamese together with American base it in our house, because our house is kind of beach and we have a big porch and we had a very nice yard and my father had a big well. We have a lot of water container. And so they use our house for laundry, for cooking. They use our well for shower and everything. So we be around them. And sometimes we stole their hand grenade. We stole cigarettes from them. We took what we can, basically, from them. Then we hide it. Then we give it to the Viet Cong when they come to the village. If I heard that they're gonna go patrol in west or north or south or east direction, then I will sing a song or tell about make it louder so other villager can hear that if the black man gonna be the leader on the platoon, we will call a black water buffalo going west. Or a white water buffalo can go to the south. And children stop, but we've been trained and we've been teach how to do those things. And to us, it's just like a game. To us, it's just like, yeah, what can I say? Sometimes we lie, we never can tell the truth. Because we don't know what the truth is. We don't know what the lie is about. We just know that if we say a wrong thing, we can get killed. And if we say a bad thing, we're going to be tortured. So, we just sing and pretend that we just know nothing.
Kim made a suggestion to me, and I think it's good one that maybe I could describe to people who the Viet Minh were and how they were different from the Viet Cong and ARVN. The Viet Minh was Ho Chi Minh's organization, a coalition that he created in 1941 called the League for Vietnamese Independence. And it was a group of people across the political spectrum who wanted to secure Vietnam's independence from France. Vietnam was a colony of France from the 1860s on. So after World War II, the Viet Minh turned it into an armed struggle because France wanted its colony back. It was an 8-year war from 1946 to 1954 that France lost. And then the country was divided at the 17th parallel. And in 1960, a group, the Viet Minh, the former Viet Minh in the South, formed a new organization called the National Liberation Front that achieved a nickname, the Viet Cong, which meant Vietnamese communists. And we Americans called them the Viet Cong or the VC. And the VC were local Southern Vietnamese insurgents. They were people who wanted to overthrow the government of Ngo Dinh Diem, who you may remember, Ly, and his successors, and who wanted to, the Americans out of South Vietnam. ARVN is the word that the Americans used for the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. Some people call them the Republican Forces. This was the government of South Vietnam that the United States supported and tried to prop up over the course of the Vietnam War. So those are the sides that we're discussing. You were captured lately by Arvin, tortured by Arvin. And I'll have to say, I don't want you necessarily to discuss the torture, but I have to say that your writing about the torture was one of the most instructive things I've ever read. I remember being very educated by your description of the psychology of torture and how you endure it and the psychology of the torturer. And you then get released and you go back to your village, and the villagers don't view you in the same way. They now view you with suspicion. Is that true?
That's true, because my mother's side, all of her nephews, 5 of them, 5 men, went to South Vietnamese army, and they are officers. And so when each time that my mom went to see them in Da Nang, the Viet Cong think that she go and get information, whatever. But then when I've been captured and put in a torture camp, my mom asked my sister Ba, who married to a secret police in South Vietnamese, while her husband in the North, went to North in 1954. And here, this Vietnamese, his cousin, forced her to marry him. And so that's how she had to marry him. So for our safety, for our family safety, she did with it, like I describe my book, it's nothing that my family wanted, but because of the force, and he became Catholic, he became a we call nhân dân tự vệ at the time, where and become working for the American CIA, I think that's what we assume. But anyway, so that is why 2 of my sisters and my father did not end up in torture camp, because we had my brother Bong went to North Vietnam in 1954. My brother Sao joined the Viet Cong in around 61, 62. And so, we went through a lot, but not end up in tiger cage, not end up in really torture camp or killed. Because you have to understand, between 1960 to 1970, those 10 years, that Ngô Đình Diệm and his brother, Ngô Đình Nhu and Ngô Đình Cẩn, the one is from Huế, they put us through hell. You have no idea. Our family is Buddhist, and we believe in worship and ancestors. And they came to our house and not allow us to have that in our home. They just want to put the photo of Ngô Đình Diệm up and with the cross. And we cannot do anything. I mean, it's just very hard for the villager back in those days. Why I cry all the time? Because it never left me. I never have a chance to talk about it. The wrote in the book, it really helping me. And talking about it, it helping me. But I'm not crying for myself. I'm crying for my playmates, my villager, the people I call uncle and auntie, and what I see, what they went through. It's very sad. It's nothing that I can care for it.
And eventually you had to leave the village. And I want to, you were making reference to President Ngo Dinh Diem, or Diem, who was a dictator, a South Vietnamese dictator, that you had to put up a portrait of him in your house. And he was a Catholic, and he suppressed the Buddhists. And that sparked a revolt against Diem and really helped to fuel the National Liberation Front and the Viet Cong. So you're caught up in this civil strife in South Vietnam, and eventually you and your mother, correct, have to leave Ky La, and you go first to Da Nang, I believe.
First, I went to Da Nang, but then when my mother went through a trial, kangaroo court trial, like myself. After I released from the torture camp, the Viet Cong said that I betrayed because I left too soon. I had to exchange the information or whatever. And so both of my mother and I, we went through a terrible, tragic execution, more like. Then when we could not stay in the village anymore, we have to leave the village. Otherwise, either we die, we get killed, or my mom cannot go outside in 100 meters, that she had to stay in that 100 meters. And so my dad had to ask permission from the Viet Cong, from the South Vietnamese, from the American, so that they can let me and my mother left the village to Saigon. And that was in February, right after the New Year's in 1965. And only my father that remained in the village. And that was a harder thing for me. I lost my water buffalo. I left all my pets, my houses. But my dad, my mom had to come with me, but my daddy had to stay and take care of the house and graveyard. I mean, it's very hard for the villager to have 6 children, and some in the north, some in the south, and he, an old man, just be himself at home. And that is a thing that like to me, it nothing torture to Vietnamese father and mother that a lot of kid and fight in a war at such a young age. And this side doesn't believe you. Another side doesn't believe you. Everyone who comes to the house or the village with a gun, that is, they have an authority and nothing else. And it is very hard for me to talk about it.
What was it like to live in Saigon now as a very young woman, a girl really, with your mother, so different from your village?
Village, we don't have running water. We don't have electricity. We have dirt floor. We have a thatch roof. We have a bamboo house. And, we had everything. Come to a city like Saigon, at first, the land is already too big for us. But now we left the land and we went to Saigon. Everything is so wealthy, so rich. We have to learn how to turn on electricity. We have to learn how to, we not carry the water from the well, from the river, but we have to do the laundry right in there. I mean, everything. It's just like a gel, just like inside the box. And that is all you know. And you go up and down every day. And my job is to be nana and be housekeeper and be maid to the rich. And it's not an easy life, but I can deal with the culture differences, the hard life. But one thing I cannot get over that how much I miss my father and my pets and my home in the village. So it's not easy, but I'm not alone. The whole country become refugee in our own land, on our own country. And here we come to the city, we have to be made. When we in our village, we have rice paddy, we have everything. We are middle class family. And yet now we obey the little kid in the house. They pay on you, they call your name, you still put up with it. I mean, this is to me now that I look back at what my mother had to went through and what my dad had to go through. I mean, it's just insane that man can do that to other men.
So you were a house servant in Saigon, and your mother was a house servant, treated really horribly. And one thing that comes through in your story is just how hard you worked. You have worked your entire life from the time you were a child, working in the village, now working in Saigon. And in Saigon, it's really a matter of survival. I mean, you and your mother are finding every way possible to get money to survive. And it involves, you get involved in illegal activity, black market activity. and you're living hand to mouth, and pretty soon you have a baby at a young age too.
That is after I come back from the NAN, 6 month pregnancy. I'd be pregnant by the man of the house, okay, my boss.
Yeah.
And so after 6 months pregnancy with him, his wife found out and she threw us out. Both my mother and I. She kicked us out, and we have nowhere to go. We've been homeless for a while, then we returned to Da Nang. But now Kỳ La had a big American military base set up there, and it's just nowhere we can come and live, in the village. And so I end up stay with my sister Lon in the city, and my mother stay with somebody else in Da Nang. And when I was 16, I had my first son, Jimmy. And that is after my son was born, then I started to have to go out and learn how to sell black markets. And that's how I can make money to support my mom and keep a little bit for my dad in a village and take care of my son. And that is 16 years old.
And is this when you really first started interacting with a lot of American GIs, a lot of American soldiers, when you were buying and selling in the black market?
Yes, that is. I stay with a cousin of mine. She had 9 children and she need help. So my mother and I, we end up working with her, stay with her, and she teach me how to go out and buy something in Vietnamese market for $1. We can sell to $5 or even $10 to real. And that's what she does every day. And I just follow her and I just copy what she say, what she sell. She start to change the money in Vietnamese to the piastre to American money. She started to add them to buy supply in the PS and come back and sell in a black market. So whatever she does, I copy. And she, older than me, she very smart and she wise than me. I just learning. And I young and I run fast and I take more risks than first we sail around in Da Nang. But it get too many young girl like me to do the same thing. Then we started to travel into countryside with it all around Quảng Nam province. Everywhere that I have a big American base, that's where we go there. Then we sell little thing like a souvenir stuff. Then we go into the marijuana. I don't know if real or not. We just buy very cheap. We sell them very expensive. And after we sell, we making so much money, we cannot keep that money because it's not our money. It is American money and it's a South Vietnamese money. And so the way that smuggle that money back to the Vietnamese market, we have to add American real to go into PS and buy the supply for us. And 5 things that we really need from them is the gum, cigarettes, whiskey, laundry soap, and chocolates. So that is 5 things to add him to buy. At first, they just like us, very naive. They like us, they kid, we have fun. And they brought us back whatever, and we want to give them whatever, they wanted. But then little by little, they never come back with our money. They're gone. We don't know their name. We don't know what they look like. We only describe them like the black, the white, or tall, or short, or wear glasses or not. And we have nobody that we can complain to. And besides, that's not our money. It's their money. And so sometimes they come back with the supply for us. But then again, we Vietnamese, we cannot own that supply. That it belongs to America. So the Vietnamese policeman will stop out and take it away anytime, anywhere. So I have to looking for a bus with the South Vietnamese army or police who take the bus and then sit next to him. And we talk to him, and if somebody stops, say that it's your stop, then I give you something. You know, it's street smart. You have to learn that on your own. Nobody trained you. You're 17 years old. You're a mother. And so, you know, they did that kind of thing for me. Sometimes they just took it and walked away without saying a thing, but sometimes they help me, and I give them whatever they want. So that is how I make a good living.
So you had great street smarts and learned very quickly how to survive. You are a survivor, a survivor. And I want to remind people that your book is so detailed, so candid. We're skipping over a lot of trauma, a lot of things that happened to you. And you know, I think people could fill in the blanks, but I want to get to you finally meeting, if you wouldn't mind talking about your first husband, Ed Monroe. Where did you meet him and what was he like?
You're talking about meant to be. He just came to Vietnam 1 week before. As he a civilian at engineering. And so he worked for RMK. And so he just came to Da Nang and he stayed in a feeder mill. And Sunday morning, he take a bus, come to Da Nang. And right at the Da Nang River, there was a bus station where he get off. So when he get off, he looking around and try to figure out which way to go. He just get to 1 week, right? But then he saw a woman, a Vietnamese woman who is big belly. She pregnant. She walked by. And so he asked her to play wherever that is, with it red districts, red light districts. And so the woman said, oh, you can't go there. It's no good, because she want him for herself. But she but she married, she pregnant, and then she cannot take him home, but she just wanna try to figure out how to help him. And so I happened to just drove by my motorcycle, just ride past, and we know each other very briefly because she worked in a bar and a restaurant, and so I go there sometime. And so she called me Lee, and I just turn around, I look at, and I saw her, and I turn around, and she talked me into accept him, say okay to be his girlfriend, and then he give her the money, and then we run, you know, kid stuff, just woman fun stuff. And number one, he is too old for that kind of game, and to me, it's just too young. I'm, you know, only 17 years old, and he is 50 some years old. And she talked to me, she begged me, she said, please, you know, I have 6 children at home. I needed money. And I look at him, I look at her, and I just say, God, how can I say no? Then I just say yes. Well, I on a motorcycle, I can just go. And so after that, he gave her money, and I thought, okay, I go. But it's only one-way street. And so I went one-way street. He get the Sitlo follow same street all the way. But then the Sitlo driver know where I go, where I live, because he's my neighbor, and he chased after me, and that is how we end up. I can't get rid of him.
So he followed you in a cyclo, a rickshaw, all the way to where you lived.
Yeah. I mean, it just, I mean, without him, I would not be here to talk to you. Okay? So
Yeah.
every man come into my life is a Vietnamese bot or him or another guy who I sold myself for $200.
Yeah.
To get a food for my kid. All those men play a role in my life so that I can be here and share the story with you. I don't see that it's a great thing I done in life, but I don't see that it's a horrible thing. I didn't kill anybody. I did what I have to do to survive. But that is not a beautiful thing, but the beautiful thing that how can we make it a better world, you know? How can
Yeah.
we make it a better place for our children and grandchildren?
And it's like that question I think you started asking. It seems from your book, it seems like you started asking those big questions when you arrived, it was with Ed, when you arrived with Ed, to San Diego in 1970 with now your two children. You're 20 years old. You already have two children, and you arrive in the United States. It must have been like you were sent to another planet.
That's right. It's just like when I left my village to Saigon. Now I have to be near the big Saigon in San Diego. The culture shock just for fun. In Vietnam, as you know, the weather is very, very hot. We wear black pajama. We eat hot soup, hot rice, drink hot tea, everything hot. And no problem. We can deal with it. Come to San Diego, it weather is cold. They drink cold Coke, eat cold sandwich, have cold cereal in the morning, wear shorts, t-shirt. I mean, it's just opposite. So that is one way I have to learn. In Vietnam, everything is fresh. You buy in the market, you come home, you cook for lunch, and you went back to the market, you buy something for dinner. Here, stuff it in ice, it's on ice, and that is the dinner. How can you deal with such culture that have no relation between the food that you plant, you harvest, you train a plant, and you harvest it and cook? It has no relation. Everything is frozen from the ice box to the stove. But then whatever you don't eat, it go on into garbage disposal. And the children in Vietnam is starving, right? You can see the waste, you can see the unappreciate the food. It's not related appreciate of what you have and have not. Where I came from, you appreciate of everything. You worship everything. You thankful everything. Here, no matter what, you don't like it, throw it away. Go buy something else. I mean, this is a thing. So I have to learn very quick. And everything I can deal with, the culture shock, the differences, no problem. But what most problem is my husband family, he World War II veteran. Two of his sons were in Navy, both in Da Nang. I met them over there. His sister married to Navy. Their children in Navy. So the Navy family, they see the war, they see the Vietnam, they see the communist different than what I see. It's just, my husband been there, he's civilian, he saw, he have a feeling for Vietnamese, but his family totally opposites. And so even in news, when the war crisis come out for the news, and Vietnam War is on a first subject that he's talking about. So my family sitting around the dinner and watch the news, and they look at the picture on the TV, and when they see the American get killed or wounded, and cover them up and put them in airplane, they look at me and they say, "Oh, Lee, it's shame on you people that you kill our people, We should kill them all and go home," that sort of thing. And I just have no word. I can't say anything. And every time they see the Vietnamese villagers run around crying with the baby on their arm, their house burning down, the whole village destroyed and everything, and they look at me, they say, why did you people want to kill each other? Why do you want war? They just shook their head and they just discuss it. I have no word. I have no way that I can tell what's going on in Vietnam. Only thing I remind myself that I say, well, I will answer you one day, because you don't know anything about us. It's not your war. It's not your country. It's ours. And yet we're not asking for this. And yet we take on the blame on what happened. But I have no way to say of anything. And I just press it down and press it down. But I always tell myself that, yeah, one day I will add a plane to you and tell you about our war and our story. That is the book always within me talk
There's
about.
the people who are listening and watching this now should know that in 1970, when you arrived in San Diego, there weren't many Vietnamese-born people in the U.S. That would come later. Now, of course, there are millions of Vietnamese Americans and their children and their grandchildren, and there's a big, large Vietnamese American community. But there wasn't in 1970. You were pretty much alone, and I would imagine, and the war was still going on in 1970. So you were the focus, you were the face of the enemy, in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
You were the face of the enemy. And so you're helping to explain, Ly, why you had this need to share your need to share your story, especially with Americans, so that they could understand what a village was like in Vietnam, what it was like for the Vietnamese.
Yes, number one, we're not educated to talking about the politics. We just need to live alone, work on a land, and grow up in a village and marry a boy next door and have a family, and you get old and you die and you bury in your ancestor graveyard. Very simple life,
Yes.
right? And so when the end with the war against the French, that is what we want. For 100 years, they dominated us. They treat us just like dust. They treat us just like animal. And you well educated man, you read book, I'm sure you know. And so Vietnamese in village like myself and almost all Vietnamese in the village, it always feel like this. Yeah, we need to have our own country, independence. We working on our paddy and we take care of our graveyard. And yet the war came in, nobody asked us. Nobody tell us what the war is all about and why. What are we fighting for? I'll tell you a story. After I come back from Saigon in 1966 and I stayed with my sister Lon. Sister Lon left the village and went to Saigon. And when I have to leave the village, she had to come back to be near to our father. But she could not come back to the village, so she stayed in Da Nang. She worked in a bar. And I did not know what the bar does or whatever. But when I returned, I lived with her. At nighttime, when she home alone, she come home from work by herself, then she sleep on a bed. I sleep on the floor next to her because she have a studio. But when her boyfriend come home, then I have to go out and looking for place to live. And sometimes it's mostly on the market, and I sleep in the market there. And so one night it raining so hard, I just could not get out. And I fed her boyfriend with beer and dinner and everything. And so we having dinner, and I asked her to ask him why. Why did the American come to Vietnam? Why did they kill people? You know? And so he told her, we here to help Vietnamese. We're here to fight against the communists and we keep the freedom for the Vietnamese. At that time, I don't think my sister or we understand what communists mean to us, right? And so he said that, and he said, yeah, we're here for you. We're here for Vietnamese. And I thought, well, that is what the South Vietnamese came to our village and say the same thing. So that's why we have to cook for them. We have to kill the chicken and duck and pig for them for dinner. And the Viet Cong come and say the same thing. They own there for us and end up kill everybody just for us. But nobody tell us why. If they ask us that what we wanted, we will say, go home. Go to your family. We don't want you here. We just want to live alone so that we can have a life. But nobody asks us. That is when I start to think nobody know why they fight. Nobody know what they are for. They just killing each other just for whatever they want to do or they need to do. And that is when I start to ask myself, what is war is all about?
Boy, that's a wonderful time to take a break because I would like to transition and talk to you, talk about your work on the book, When Heaven and Earth Change Places, and then, of course, your humanitarian work that you have continued since then. We're going to take a break, if you don't mind, Ly, just to remind people that this is the Veterans Breakfast Club. This is our BBC Scuttlebutt. We have this every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the mission is to have veterans and others share stories related to the veterans community and military community. And there's a lot of history here that we're discussing. We have two sponsors for this program that we're very grateful for. We have Tobacco-Free Adagio Health. They're dedicated to preventing and educating people about tobacco hazards. And they also advocate for healthier places to live, work, and play. You can find out more about what they do at tobaccofree.adagiohealth.org. We also have UPMC for Life. They are a sponsor of this program, and they're a sponsor of many of our in-person events also. UPMC for Life can help you make sense of Medicare, get the answers and information you need, such as how to choose the Medicare Advantage plan that's right for you. UPMC for Life has plans designed by veterans for veterans that can save you money and get you more benefits. You can view all your plan options by going to upmchealthplan.com/Medicare. We also have a program coming up on, we have our magazine. And if you want to go back, Sean, this is our fall magazine. I am just about out of copies. I think I have maybe, there, Don, Ed Fender's holding his copy there. I just have a handful of copies left. But we're Daria Summers, who is on here, she and I are working on our next issue. It will be out next month. It should be hitting your mailboxes next month. And if you would like to get a copy in the mail, please let us know your address. And in fact, if you're joining us for the first time, and I do think that we have quite a few people here on the Zoom end and probably on YouTube too, who are watching one of our programs for the first time because of our illustrious and famous guest, I would just invite you to let us know who you are. You could email me, Todd, T-O-D-D, at veteransbreakfastclub.org. We could make sure that you get our schedule updates, and you could also get our magazine in the mail free of charge every quarter. Sean, we also have an event coming up, don't we? Another online event coming up on Thursday night.
You do. Yes, it's the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest. We're looking at the Battle of the Bulge 80th anniversary, I believe. And Glenn will be hosting this program Thursday night, 7 p.m. Really looking forward to this conversation with Glenn this coming Thursday. Also, next Monday, the 25th, 7 p.m., same time, we will have women in Vietnam, not just nurses. Todd, do you want to give us a preview of who
Yeah,
look forward
don't you
to in
love
this?
that picture? I love
Yeah,
this
it's
picture.
beautiful.
These are Army WACs. 11,000 women served in Vietnam. 11,000 American women served in Vietnam. 10,000 of them about were nurses. What about the other 1,000 or 1,100 or 1,200? We're going to have a conversation with some of them from the Air Force, from the Marine Corps, from the Navy, and especially from the Army. They'll be joining us and talking about what it was like to be in a staff or line position in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. So that'll be 1 week from tonight, Monday, November 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I hope you could join us. All right. Oh,
And
and
of
then
course,
we'll have
open
open
conversation.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, December 2nd. And I wanted to get to this final one that our in-person breakfast in Beaver will happen on December 4th, 8:30 a.m. If you are new to the VBC, we love doing in-person breakfasts. We do them in and around the Pittsburgh region and stretched out a little bit as well across Pennsylvania. But we would love to see you at our Beaver breakfast. If you haven't experienced an in-person breakfast with VBC, you're missing out because it's a wonderful event. It's a great way to share stories, make new friends, understand more about who we are, what our mission is, and come out and support veterans in the region.
Thank you very much, Sean. Let's get back to Ly. Ly is one of these people, and the world doesn't deliver many of these people who seem to have lived 6 or 7 lives in one lifetime. I mean, in your 74 or 75 years, depending on when your birthday is, Ly, you seem to have lived about 6 or 7 different lifetimes, and we've only gotten through 1 or 2 of them so far in our brief conversation. I would like to invite people to prepare some questions for Ly, and prepare to put your hand up and ask a question. You could put it in the chat. You could wave your hand in front of the camera. But before we get to your questions, I do want Ly to talk a little bit about selling her memoir. From what I've read lately, this was for as beautiful book as it is, it was a hard book to sell to publishers. Publishers weren't interested.
Back in those days, when you talk about Vietnam, nobody want to hear those 2 words. Vietnam. It's just something that people shut you down, especially Vietnamese, talk about Vietnam. It make it harder. So I had about 20 some different population house turn me down until I met my friend Jay Wood, whom I co-author, to help me and work with me on it. And Double Day take it. But the reason why I met Joe, because I went to have a big weekend writing conference here in La Jolla, San Diego. And, you know, like 500-600 people. And so we have a small group and we share about, you know, about 10-20 people. And each of us, we have only 5 minutes to share your story. Either you sell or you don't, right? My English is not that good, still not, but I was better now than what back then. And then I try to tell him that my story, very short. It's like, I am the Viet Cong. I was the Viet Cong. I come from the Viet Cong family. I've been raped. I've been tortured. I have my kid. I'm 16 years old. I've been widowed twice when I come to American. I'm a single mother. I am a restaurant owner. I'm a businesswoman. I want to write this book. And everybody try to sell the book like quit smoking. How you gonna get a divorce? How you gonna be healing after divorce, right? On this thing. And here I tell all about my life just in that 5 minutes, what's going on. And I have no clue what I'm talking about. And then everybody pull back and they say, oh my goodness, right? And then happened that the man who I talked to here, Vietnam veteran, and he came back to me and he said, I'm interested in the new book because I'm a
Isn't
veteran.
that amazing? A Vietnam veteran took an
Yeah,
interest in the book.
yeah. So that is how I sold my book there. And
And
he introduced me.
Jay Wertz is a wonderful writer. He really had he channeled your story. He was able to write your story in your voice in just a beautiful way.
Yeah, he did a great job. He also Vietnam veteran, so
Also
we
a
know.
Vietnam veteran. And the book is, of course, When Heaven and Earth Change Places. I want to invite people, if they have questions for Lê Ly, if they have comments they would like to make, please feel free. This is your chance to talk to really, I mean, somebody you've been a hero of mine, Lê Ly, for 35 years, and it's a thrill for me to be able to have you on. Ben Wright.
So why did it what take you 35 years to get me on?
I thought you were because you're like way up here and I'm down here and you're not gonna I
Oh,
can't believe
come
and
on.
it's Chuck who really connected us and I'm so grateful. Where did Ben Wright go?
I'm still here.
Okay, there you are. Hey Ben, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Well, Lê Ly, thank you so much for sharing your story with us this evening. It's very enlightening. I'm just curious if you've ever been back to Vietnam to visit family or see all the changes that have happened there since the end of the hostilities.
Yes, I've been back. The first time was in 1986. Then the second time in 1989. After that, about 2 to 4 times each year, because I work in Vietnam. I help to rebuild the country after the war. And it's been changed a lot. And that is what my job was to invite people like you. Are you veteran? Are you
Yes,
Vietnam veteran?
ma'am.
Good. Invite you to come back to Vietnam and see Vietnam today. Get to know the Vietnamese.
Well, I
I
went
don't want
back
to.
with Todd in 2018.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Todd's done 3 trips with groups to
Good.
Vietnam.
I'm glad to hear that. Yes.
And I have to remind people that when you first went back to Vietnam in 1986, Vietnam was perhaps the poorest country on earth.
That's right.
It was one of the poorest. Maybe Haiti beat out Vietnam as the poorest country on earth, but it was absolutely desperately poor to the point where the people didn't have enough food to eat. And it's stunning to me that you went back to a country in that condition. It's stunning that that the Vietnamese allowed you to come back, and that you've seen the transformation. Now Vietnam is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It's transformed into a tiger economy, it's called. What do you think of the changes that have taken place in Vietnam?
Well, the end of the war, all smart people left the country. They end up the camp. And so the embargoes, 20 years after the war, and that is why Vietnam put to the poorest country on the planet, yes. The people is starving in the north. Now, I come from San Diego. I own 5 houses and a restaurant. And one kid in UCSD and other kid in high school, right here in Escondido, come to country like that. I mean, how do you think I can just turn my back and walk away and not look back and say, can I help these people? You know? And so second trip, I went back in 1988. That would really change my life because I traveled together with a group of veterans, American veterans. And we traveled from Saigon to Da Nang to Hue to Hanoi in 2 weeks. And after that 2 weeks, I know what I had to do. Because in Hue, in Saigon, we visited 2 hospitals, 2 orphanages, and places with very poor condition. It shocked me. But then we cannot talk to American children because they want to meet with us and talk to us, but it's just very hard. But then we come to Da Nang, we're able to meet with them and they come to our hotel and have dinner with us. And that is very happy for them and for us because I have 2 American children. But what changed is come to Hue because it's 1968 Tet Offensive. And now it's 1988, 20 years on a dot. We come back on a test. And so, you know, we have people on our trip who with PTSD, who's sick, who not healthy, who's scared, who nervous. I mean, you have everything, about 20 of us in a group. And I just tag along and then help them translate back and forth, whatever, and then come to Hue. And we had a dinner, long table. And we sit on both sides waiting for somebody to come. There one Vietnamese man come in with all the medal on him from head to toe. And so now he's the man that planned the Tet Offensive in Hue. And so everybody nervous, you know, and he came with his journalists and we find out that he the one that when the American veteran say, yeah, I was in Hue. And the man said, where? And then he said, I'm there. And he said, that's where I put my men to fight you. You know, first it's a little uptight, but then more beer to drink, more talking, more laughing, more crying. It's healing. I see the table turn. I see the story more fun. I see that laugh and crying are the same thing. And I thought to myself, this is what I had to do. This is what I need to do for veteran, for American, for Vietnam and Vietnamese. Because, you know, Americans say they came there to help Vietnam, to give Vietnamese what we want and needed way back then. Now, this is a chance to come and help Vietnam. And that is how I started right there.
And Ly, you're going to send me information on your next trip to Vietnam that you're going with veterans. You're going to be in Vietnam from January through April of next year. And you're planning some special trips where U.S. veterans and others, I think, are invited to participate. It sounds so wonderful to me. You're going to have a special event on March 8th, March 8th, which will be the 60th anniversary of when the Marines landed at Red Beach, Da Nang. You're planning an event on March 29th next year, which will be the 50th anniversary of Vietnam Veterans Day, or 52nd anniversary of Vietnam Veterans Day of 1973, when the last American troops left Vietnam. And then you have events in April also for the final, fall of Saigon. What are you going to be doing with American veterans there?
First, I come home for Tet. The Tet is on the 29th of the January, so I'll be there around 20th of January to get ready. But in Vietnamese culture, we believe that if someone killed or died outside the house, their soul have to remain there. We call it Mr. Thủ Công, that is the God land, the land of God who take care of the land. And if that person die in the water, then Mr. Hà Bá, who control the sea, and they cannot release the soul to go home unless we have Buddhist monk come and do a ceremony and ask permission with their name so that they can release their name to go home. So in the past 40, 30 years now, I help a lot of Vietnam veterans who killed in Vietnam. I bring their daughter, their wife, their son, whatever, want to go with me and help them to bring the soul home. And it's only way we can have peace on earth if the soul have to rest. It doesn't matter if they die there or they die here. If they die outside, it's not peaceful death, it's going to be very tough for living. So next year, I wanted to have a big ceremony for those 2 days where the American landed on Red Beach in Da Nang, but how many of them stayed there with the not return? And then the March 29, the day that they must left Da Nang, and how many of them cannot go because they killed and they die in Vietnam. So we're gonna have the Buddhist monk, we're gonna have a ceremony, we're gonna have U.S. ambassador, we're gonna have the Vietnamese veteran, and together with the U.S. veteran to come by to make a prayer. That all we need to do is make a prayer. We ask the land God to let them go. We ask the water God to let them go home. They don't want to hold them there unless somebody asks for it. And that is why the Vietnamese, we can able to do that. And we cannot live peacefully on this planet unless the soul it be home. They miss their family. We used to have a medical center in Vietnam. We built Teach Village right on the beach. And we report, our staff report to us that American came to them at night. At the security, they sleep at the center. The American came and asked for airline ticket to go home. And sometimes they have to run home middle of the night because American come and just say, you have to get me home. You have to get me home. And there's nothing they can do. So we did a lot of this ceremony that throughout the years. And so next year it will be the last thing I may, wanted to do for the American a big way.
What a wonderful ceremony. A welcome home ceremony, we would call it. For those who were killed in Vietnam, you're requesting that their spirits be able to come back home. Absolutely beautiful. And I do, in a future program, maybe one of our open discussions, I like to talk more about ancestor worship in Vietnam and Buddhism and how that functions in Vietnam is fascinating. But I want to go to Susan Yu. Susan, you've been waiting very patiently here with your hand up.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. Ly, thank you so much for your story. My heart is just swelling and beating, thinking of everything that you went through. So thank you very much. I just have a short comment, and I'd like Ly to comment on it too. But Pittsburgh is my hometown too, so I feel very at home here. I just had a couple months ago there was a program on nurses that were in Vietnam, and one gentleman said when the nurses came, that was the first time we had seen round-eyed women in so long. That was amazing. And then I think the nurse that spoke, also said, when we came, we were the first round-eyed women that were seen, that the soldiers had seen in the war. And I was really taken aback by that. I mean, I kind of put in the comments, yes, that was the times, that's what people said. But to say that now, as if it was a joke, to me, after the show ended, I thought, that was pretty damn racist. So, and I don't know how you feel about that, Laylee, especially with all, I'm fourth generation here, American. So, I don't know how, that comment would affect you. It kind of really hurt me because, I always think of myself as American. But that was my comment.
That's a great comment, Susan. Susan, your family has been in the United States far longer than mine has, and yet you might get questioned about your nativity, and I never would be. So, yeah, that's a wonderful question, and that is something that we hear often with Vietnam veterans, and certainly at the time, it was routine, I think, for American service members in Vietnam to refer to white women as round eye.
Well, as you know, what do we know about brown eye or yellow eye? Black eye or white eye? We don't know. We just know it's human being. In Vietnamese, we say the direction have 4 directions, east, north, south, and west. The 4 seasons, summer, winter, spring, fall. Human have 4 races. We all are same. We worship the same Father in sky. Therefore, we have to respect one another, to live with one another. That's why we can forgive and move on and not hold anything against the French or the American after the war. Now, as you know, they refer us as goose. They refer us as fly. They refer us all kind of stuff. If you read American books wrote 20, 30 years ago, you can see what they make a comment about Vietnamese women or about Vietnamese people. To me, that is their problem. I have my own food to eat. I have my own house to live in. I have my own job. I have my own parking ticket to pay. I need to take care of those things. If they have problem with me, that's their problem. I love them no matter what. They are my brothers. They are my sister. They are the people who do what they have to do. They have their right, and I have my right. Their right, I give them freedom, and I act the same way. Give me freedom, so I live the way I need to live, and I do what I have to do. So that is my answer. I'll tell you a story. About 15 years ago, I had an office here in San Diego, net town in Rancho Bernardo. I locked myself out the car and I tried to open it. And a man came to me and he said, can I help you? And I told him, and he tried to help me to open the car and he couldn't do it. So he asked, where do you live? I said, oh, I live in Escondido. He said, oh, I can give you a ride home to get your key. I said, yeah. So we get in a car and we driving, short distance on the freeway 15, and he asked me, what do you do? And I just told him, just honestly, I just say, oh, I'm a writer. And he asked, what it about? And I told him, yeah, I would grow up in the village. I was a little girl. I joined the Viet Cong. As soon as he heard the word Viet Cong, he put on the brake, the car swing right on the freeway. And I just hold him and I just said, please calm down, calm down. And he just hold himself and he calm down, brought me home. So I went looking for my key and I invite him to come into my house. And he saw all around I had veteran give me this and that, and veteran honor me this and that. And he looked around and he shook his head. He said, oh, you the Viet Cong, you the VC, but you okay VC. And so both of us went back to the car, and he rolled me back. And then before he walked away from me, he gave me his business card, and he looked at me. He said, I am a Vietnam veteran, and you don't call me. Don't you ever call me, because I hate Vietnamese people. And that's what it is. So I deal with it every day. I deal with it all the time. So I don't have any problem with it.
You're one of the most remarkable people I've ever met, Laylee. Bob Flage.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayslip, your story is amazing. You are an example from 1967, 68 that I observed of the youth in Vietnam. And I had the sympathy and always wondered what happened to them when I came home 58 years ago, whatever. And my question was, in reading the write-up before the show, you had indicated you worked with the VC because that's what your village did, correct?
Yes.
Okay. At being an infantry squad leader, platoon sergeant, I'd been in many villages. Some were hostile, some not hostile. Yeah, I just got the impression that some of these people just didn't have a dog in the fight. They didn't, all they worried about was their family, their land, etc., and weren't in the mix of all this policies or whatever. But my question is, did you observe villages that were intimidated either by threat or forced, torture or whatever, to get them to come over to the liberation side?
Not too much on liberation side, but a lot on the South Vietnamese side. They give out a lot of song to sing for the Viet Cong and tell Viet Cong to change the side to come to the South Vietnamese side. We call chiêu hồi. They have the chiêu hồi program. And if the Viet Cong give up their side and join the South Vietnamese and American, they will get a reward from the South Vietnamese. And that is why some Viet Cong does run over and that it then they have to tell. They have to tell everything. So that is when a lot of the villager and the VC getting killed because by those men run the side and join the South Vietnamese and American and tell what they know about the Viet Cong, the secret bunker and all that. That's why a lot of us getting killed. Yes.
Oh, how fascinating.
One thing I want to say is that I can sleep at night with clear conscience that I know my units, Echo Company, 3rd of the 60th, 9th Division, down the Delta, never did any of these atrocities that you see in these movies, that have been, on the screen. That if we went into a hostile village, we inspected it, we didn't burn it down, etc. Right. If it was a friendly village, both villages or all kinds of villages had the kids, and that's what tore at our hearts as far as going through there, and they were getting parts of our sea rations that we didn't want, especially the peanut butter. But anyway,
Thank you.
In closing, I just want to say my favorite restaurants in Jacksonville, Florida, are Vietnamese.
Oh, good.
I go to every one of those. I prefer them than anything else we've got. And
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to go to John's iPad. Hey, John.
Hey, thank you, Todd. Hey, I have a question for Ly. Ly, yes. I just wanted to say that you're exactly right when you said the question is I had a friend, I was in the Central Highlands, actually west of Nha Trang. And this Vietnamese friend of mine, he used to say to me, he said, John, well, why are you here? We didn't really want the French here either. And why are you Americans here? And it was very difficult to really answer him in a way that was, really profound and accurate, because we basically did whatever we were told.
Right. Yes.
But that was very, very insightful.
John, what is your last name?
Orslack.
Oh, John Orslack. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
My video's not working. But...
Well, John, the same thing. If I would or Vietnamese would come to Florida or San Diego,
yes,
and do the same thing to your people, what would you do? Or you stand up and fight against us, or you just take our side? You know what I mean? That is the common sense. Because we're not well educated enough to know who right or wrong. We just wonder why did you there and what are you there for. So thank you for share that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. Mary Nell Gage, how are you? I'm so happy that you joined us.
Oh, so am I. Ly, your story is so interesting and inspiring.
Thank you.
Was blessed to work in Saigon with a program taking care of orphan children and helping them find adoptive homes. And we've had groups going back to their motherland from 96 until 2015. And then COVID then stopped our trips, but we're going to go next year, landing March 29 in Saigon and staying through April 14. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to be part of some of the programs that you're going to have when you're there in April of next year.
Yes, hope so. I hope so. I will share with Todd when we finish the program so that he can share it on with you, and I invite you to join us for the ceremony. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for doing this for us. And I noticed before there are 2 of the war orphans who were adopted here into the United States who've been part of the program, listening to your most touching story. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
I'm
being.
on.
That is Sister Mary Nell, another one of my favorite people. She has quite a story to tell, and I'm so excited to hear about her trip back to Vietnam, which will be next year.
Yes.
Ly, you are so kind to share the last 90 minutes with us. It's I think it's something that everybody here in the Zoom room will always remember. I will want to share the information about your upcoming trips next year. And I also hope that maybe someday you'll join us again and share more of your story, because we just scratched the surface.
I hope you call me back, Todd. I mean, I
Okay.
love you. You're handsome and you're just so kind. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share. Because all American not bad and all Vietnamese not bad. Okay, so just
All right. Take care, Ly. And thank
thank
you
you.
to all of you who joined us tonight. What a treat this was. Take care. Have a good night, and hope to see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good week. Thank you.